Hi guys, my name is Joseph Jane, and today we are going to be reading another chapter in Christmas Tales. And I haven't finished the whole book yet. We still have 10 more chapters, so we're going to be putting 2 to 3 days of stories. So stay tuned for those. First, we are going to be reading First Walk in December. And we're going to be only reading First Walk in December because it's big, really big. It's Christmas, said Janet, looking outside the window. Ooh, lovely, said John. It's really winter now, said Pat, looking out the window into the streets and seeing all the trees so sulking and black, and the sky's black and it's rainy-ish. And Pat is just looking out of the window into the streets, seeing all the rain and stuff, and it's really cold. I've got a lot of lovely pictures stored up in my mind, said Wade. And I remember old Fergus being chased by a rabbit last month, chuckled Pat. But Janet and John flew to Fergus's defense at once. The rabbit was not chasing him. They were going round and round the oak tree, but Fergus was after the rabbit. You know he was, Pat. So Pat's just trying to make fun of Fergus. I think Fergus is a dog. I'm pretty sure, yeah. Fergus is a dog, and a rabbit was chasing him last week around an oak tree. And the rabbit was actually not chasing him. Fergus was chasing the rabbit. And they were just going round and round like a roundabout around the oak tree. And yeah, so the next day, Uncle Mary has come to see them. And he has come to take the children for a walk with Fergus. And they're going outside for a walk. Uncle Fergus is just basically telling them lots and lots of stuff about nature. It was cold and frosty day, and they pulled their coats and scarves warmly around them. Doesn't Fergus want a coat too? Asked Janet. I've seen dogs wearing coats, Uncle. They don't need them, said her uncle. Animals grow thicker coats for the winter. So, fact, animals grow thicker coats for the winter. And when the spring comes, I shall have to have Fergus stripped of some of his coat, or he will be too hot. So if you don't strip, say you have a pet dog, they grow more fur for the winter to keep hot, and when it becomes spring and it's really hot, they need to get you need to shave their fur a bit so that they don't get too hot. Yeah, so I suppose nearly all the hibernators are asleep now, Uncle. All of them, said Uncle Mary. The bat hangs upside down in hollow trees or barns. The snakes are curled up together somewhere. The dormouse and the hedgehogs sleep in their holes. The badger is safe in its den with its family. The frogs are in the pond, and the toads are under big stones. Many, many animals hibernate. The snails are clustered together on rocky reeds or beneath walls, and thousands of insects are so fast asleep that you might think them dead. So that last part, thousands of insects are asleep, and so asleep that you might think they're dead. Oh, Uncle, look, hazel catkins already, cried John in delight, pointing to some short green catkins. I guess they're flowers, something, plants, growing sturdily on the hazel trees in the nearby hedge. Somehow they're making springtime seem great. What? I guess these hazel catkins grow on hazel trees near springtime. And yes, it's lovely to see them in December, said Uncle Mary. I always like the bareness of the trees too, much as I love the greenery of spring. So Uncle Mary really likes the greenery of spring and the hazel. So now they're going out, and they saw a giant tree with holly growing on the side of it. And it's actually an oak tree. So they were thinking, how is holly growing on the side of it? And their uncle is telling them, there are plenty of berries still left on the hedges for birds, said John. John is saying this, but look, hips and haws, Uncle, and even a few elderberries too. Shall we gather some? Said Uncle Mary. If we are going to have a bird table soon, I don't know what that is either, a bird table, we can nail twigs onto the back of it for the birds to perch on. So, you know birds, they have legs like this. They have legs like this, talons, claws. And perch on little twigs and sticks like that because they can just wrap the legs around it. But we can't do that. No, we can't. And they just do that, so they're gonna nail it on the side nail some nails. Nail some nails on the sides of the bird table, which I don't know what is, and the birds could just stand on there with their legs. And we could tie strings of berries to the twigs. Oh yes, said the children, and gathered as many berries as they could. They saw some privet berries too on the privet hedge around the farm garden. Uncle Mary was sure the farmer wouldn't mind them having some of those as well. I dried some rowan berries, he said. I can put them in water to soak them when we want them for our bird table. The birds like those too. They're just soaking up like berries and to put them on the bird table so the birds can eat them. The rooks and jackdaws were still in the fields. Peewit stood about, and some white-winged gulls soared high in the air. So there's lots of birds still out so that's why they're making a bird table. I guess it's like a bird feeder or something, and so that all the birds can eat in wintertime. Uncle, we must take holly and mistletoe for Christmas decorations, mustn't we? Said Pat eagerly. There's so many holly trees around there, and they're loaded with berries. Hey, that's our song, Holly and Mistletoe from my school. The holly and mistletoe, the holly and mistletoe, the lights on the tree, the glow in the fireplace. It's Christmas time for me. The cards on the mantelpiece, the gifts round the tree, the old Advent calendar. It's Christmas time for me. Christmas time is a season to celebrate. Christmas time is a reason to sing. Christmas time is a season to celebrate. Christmas time is a wonderful reason to sing. The holly and mistletoe, the lights on the tree, the glow in the fireplace. It's Christmas time for me. Yeah, that's the song. Okay, now back to the story. Yes, you will find plenty, said Uncle Mary. Here's a beauty. Don't you remember seeing the white cauliflowers in springtime? The children nodded. Why are their leaves so prickly? So, holly berries leaves are really prickly, I guess. And John, feeling the edge of one. I know why they are so glossy though. It's to prevent the leaves from giving off too much moisture in the wintertime, isn't it? So I guess leaves always give more moisture in wintertime, but holly leaves, white holly leaves, they have like a glossy texture and they give off less moisture in wintertime. That's why they have that. Yes, said Uncle Mary. Well, John, I should have thought you knew the prickles are grown on the same reason that the hedgehogs grow his armor, to keep enemies away that might eat him. White holly berries have, the reason they have prickly leaves is because they need to prevent other predators from eating them, like a hedgehog, a porcupine. Yes, of course, said John. He looked up at the top of the tree and noticed that the leaves have a few prickles not on them. So, I guess white holly berries, like the top of the trees, they don't have as much prickles. I suppose the top leaves don't grow prickles because animals can't reach so high, he thought. How clever trees are! They seem to think of everything. So trees are actually really smart, really smart. Well, I don't expect any caterpillars feed on these tough leaves, do they? Asked Janet, picking one. What about the holly blue butterfly? Asked Pat at once. So, there's a butterfly called holly blue butterfly. I don't know any of this stuff, by the way, because the book is just teaching me. And yeah, the holly blue butterfly can actually feed on the glossy texture of the leaves because they're really hard. And good boy, said Uncle Mary, giving him a pat. Pat has got a pat by Uncle Mary. The holly blue caterpillars do feed on the tough holly leaves. Good mark for you. You will be able to come with us and cut the holly for decorations, will you, Uncle Mary? So Uncle Mary is going with the children to cut the holly for their decorations in their houses. So, you will be away. We'll have to come by ourselves. We will be careful not to spoil any of the trees. What about mistletoe? Asked Pat. Where shall we get that from? I'll show you a tree where it does not grow too high, said Uncle Mary. You know that there is not a real mistletoe tree or bush, don't you? It grows on other trees and is what we call a part parasite. So mistletoe is actually like parasites. Parasites eat something and they grow on them, like us or something. I don't know. Mistletoe is like a parasite because a bird. Well, mistletoe berries are very sticky, said Uncle Mary. The thrush has a good feast on them. I guess a thrush is a bird. And then he wants to clean his beak, so he wipes his bill carefully on a bow, leaving behind him one or two of the sticky mistletoe seeds. These put out what are called sinkers, suckers that pierce through the bark of the tree right down into the sap. So mistletoe actually grows on other trees, like let's say an oak tree or a spruce tree or something. An oak tree is just a bird eats the mistletoe berries, and it wants to clean its beak because mistletoe berries are very sticky. So it gently rubs its beak on wood, and the mistletoe berries, one or two seeds are left over, and it pierces down into the tree, and it grows out as mistletoe. And then the mistletoe draws up the sap and lives on it, said Janet. Very cunning. Yes, mistletoe is very cunning. As soon as it has several sinkers drawn up sap, it grows a pair of sage green leaves. The mistletoe's leaves are never the rich, tender green of ordinary plants, as I expect you have already noticed. It has a dull coloring that many parasites show. Okay, so yeah, mistletoe gets other people to do its work, basically. It gets others to do its own work, said John. I don't think it's a very good plant. If I were a plant, I would do my own work and not live on others. That's what John said. Good. Quite right, said Uncle Mary. I hope you will always feel like that. Does mistletoe have flowers? said Janet. So Janet is actually, Janet doesn't know if mistletoe has flowers, and it probably does because it's a plant. Of course, said Uncle Mary, looking at them in the springtime. Be sure to examine the pearly berries well and see how sticky they are inside. So mistletoe berries are really sticky on the inside, and if you see how sticky they are, look for the one seed too, and don't eat either the holly or the mistletoe berries, because all the birds do so without harm. You will certainly be very sick. So kids, do not eat holly or mistletoe berries. You'll be very sick. The children turned to go home after that, making a note of where the mistletoe was so that they might come out again before Christmas and gather the decorations they needed. So yeah, the next day the children are going back to their houses. They're back in their houses, and they're making a note about the stuff that Uncle Mary told them. And the children heard sounds of angry song and saw two red robins fighting fiercely with one another. So the children are seeing two robins fighting each other fiercely with their beaks, which are sharp. They fell to the ground, both singing angrily, striking with their wings and pecking hard with their sharp beaks. Oh, Uncle, look, why are they fighting? Asked Janet, distressed. I don't like it. They mustn't. Uncle Mary laughed. There won't be much harm done, he said. Robins feed mostly in the winter time, so they don't have much food. So they make like their own winter kingdom thing around like somebody's house or around somewhere. And if another bird or robin steps into their winter kingdom, the robin fights the other bird because it doesn't want it stealing its own food. I think my garden is his kingdom, said Uncle Mary. I really must apologize for his behavior, the bird's behavior. Fergus, I sincerely trust that you will never behave like that. Fergus panted and wagged his tail, and wagged his tail. And Fergus panted and wagged his tail. He says, how could you think such a thing? Said Janet with a laugh. So, goodbye, Uncle Mary. See you at Christmas time. You will come back for Christmas, won't you? Of course, said Uncle Mary, jumping over his garden wall and landing safely in his garden. And remember, do not wait for me to take you for walks. Go for some by yourselves, and when I come back, tell me all you've seen. We will, promised the children. Indoors, they ran, glad to see their big playroom fire gleaming and dancing in welcome. So they're going back into their house, running to their fire to get more warmer. And that's pretty much the end of the story. Alright, and that's the end of the story. The only story we'll be reading today, because that was very long. If you guys like this video, hit the subscribe and turn on notification bell and give me a huge thumbs up. Bye!